Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Elisa Sklar. I am the VP of Marketing with GIS Planning. I'm delighted to be here today with Aaron Boursois from Golden Shovel. Hello, Aaron.
Hello, how's it going today?
It's great. We have an amazing turnout for this webinar again, Aaron. I think this is the 7th consecutive year we have offered this 10 Key Trends webinar, and it's always one of the most popular ones of the year, isn't it?
Yep, it's been fun to do it with you all these years. I'm getting my webcam up and running. Good to see you.
Yeah, likewise. Okay, great. So with that, I'm going to get started. We really appreciate all of you taking time out of your busy days. What I am going to do over here, Aaron, is I'm going to give you keyboard and mouse control. Hopefully that means that both of us
All
are
right.
able to advance the slides here. So we'll see what happens. Just to get us started here, a couple of things that we like to always say when we're starting off is a recognition that things are changing very, very quickly in the field of economic development, investment attraction, site selection. Oh my God, I have to go to the next slide because this one is making me a little bit dizzy. So let me move over to the next one. What we have tried to do here is take our combined years of expertise, or the fact that we have our feet on the ground with hundreds and hundreds of economic developers from across the US and Canada. GIS Planning, we work with economic developers, investment promoters across the world, and to take from that experience, coalesce and crystallize out what we see as really the dominant trends here when it comes to economic development marketing and economic development websites in particular. Aaron, I'm going to pass this over to you for this first section. Get us started.
Sounds great. Well, as we know, I think this is our 7th year of doing this now. It's been quite a few years in a row. And it's interesting how the trends shift. Every year it shifts slowly. You know, it's not dramatic every single year, but this year, I think the big theme that we saw is much more visualization and how it ties to the overall storytelling that happens.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, all right, well, let's see if this works for me.
Okay.
Sure does. Okay.
Hang on.
Sounds good. I'm going to turn this video off, and
Yeah.
we have a lot of content to show you, so we're going to go as quickly as we always do on this. Sounds good. Well, of the top 10, our number 10 still, and I'd say consistently has been now for a few years, is the idea of storytelling. And I'd like to start by just making a case that that economic development is at the core of placemaking, first and foremost. It's what places, economic development is what gives the life and vibrancy to locations and the places that we're going to be showcasing. And that to keep in mind when we're talking about storytelling, that just like people, every person's unique. And I know this sounds maybe big and overarching, but every community is also really unique. And it's really important when crafting the stories to understand that every community, especially smaller and mid-sized communities, are going to have some sort of assets. They're going to have businesses and places that they recommend. They're going to have a workforce and a nice quality of life that's going to certainly be of interest to the people that are living there. And that those aren't necessarily the qualities that you're going to want to promote because everybody has them. What you really want to look at is the fact that every community also, just like a person, has values. And those values are unique. So along with, and I'd say when it comes to storytelling, telling those values and communicating the values of your community is what's important about that story. Because that's how you're going to find the people that are going to be a right fit and the companies that are going to be a right fit. And as important as knowing who you are and all of that is knowing exactly who you're not. So the last thing you need is to be bringing in an industry or a business or a community of people that just aren't going to appreciate or find the community to be something they can thrive in. So we ask we work with 240 communities right now, and these are the questions we ask when we do story writing. And story writing is at the base of all of our marketing. It's like, what is it that makes your community unique? Looking at the greatest strengths and assets, and the goals for your community are very, very important, because you want something that's going to really bring people and call people to what you're up to and where you're headed next. When it says, what is the essence of your community? This is the thing that can't be seen. And so it's really hard to communicate an essence of a community by just showing them a picture or sending them a brochure. And those are the feelings that we're trying to capture and put into the stories to make a difference in people's minds. Because how people feel about your community is your brand. And it's affected by so many different ways. I mean, today we're talking about the websites and website trends. This message that we're talking about right here carries through all of the other 9 items that we're going to be getting to. There's all of your marketing stuff, of course, people, how you answer the phone and who you meet in person, all of that affects your brand. And the follow-up that you do, does it take 2 days or is it done the same day? Is it the good press and bad press? Clearly, the efforts that you do to engage with your local businesses to make sure they're growing and expanding all affects the impression of that and becomes the value of your brand. So today, in this, as we discuss websites, we're talking about the marketing of economic development, and marketing is telling a story. And it's because stories actually have influence on heart, soul, and mind. They influence the decisions that people make of moving their families, choosing where they want to live. Oftentimes, most of the time, people have been there to visit one time in the past, maybe on a vacation or something of that sort. But other times, a good story can be enough to influence a person to uproot themselves and to try on a different place. And so we write lots of stories. At Golden Shovel, we have a team of incredible team of copywriters that we have hundreds and hundreds of stories that are ready to be going out for communities all across the country and North America. And the types of stories that we're focusing on are success stories. Now, they're the ones where a hero is going to be really relatable and aspirational. And that means it might not be talking about how Mark Zuckerberg is doing great in your community, because not everybody can necessarily relate with him. But when if you're trying to attract a specific workforce, or you're trying to attract a specific target industry, you can find CEOs that are thriving in that industry. You can find people that are in that particular, that are working in that particular industry, that are having success. You can tell those stories and then market those stories to the people, the target audiences that are going to be inspired by them. And so here's some of the types of things that, types of stories that affect placemaking. One we focus a lot on is success stories of leading employers and of the thriving companies. That is the dual benefit of promoting the company and attracting talent to it that they will desperately need, almost certainly. And then also share with other people in the industry of the similar industries that are interested in thriving as they are. Showing about stories about how these locations can enable success, particularly in certain industries or for certain types of companies that they're looking to attract. And then on the startup side of things, to talk about success stories of companies that were homegrown, that are expanding and changing to the needs of the times. And just as important right now is attracting a workforce. We'll talk a little bit more about that later, but these also are all stories that we tell. We talk about these people that are thriving in your community, that they really have found their stride, they love living there, they love raising their family there, and they love telling why. And we can pass that on and attract people of like minds to come check out your community. How people experience your community, things like, let's say you have somebody come visit, or you have a digital nomad that passes through your community. The stories that they write about their experience affects people's choices to move there and live there. And then how places are impacted by the people that are there is also a part of it. It's saying, hey, these type of people live here, these are their values, and this is how the whole community has been impacted. It makes for powerful stories. And then just since we're focused on websites today, and I promise this gets into an awful lot of websites. There's a whole bunch of ways to use these stories. This is one example in Roseville, Minnesota, where they put the business success stories onto their websites. I'd say 99% of the websites that we've been working on have these types of success stories in them. They're also on the homepage. They end up becoming featured news as they get written, and becomes the catalyst for social media and the other types of functions. Greater Dubuque has success stories on their sites. And these stories, they're not just put onto the website, and that's what's most important. The website ultimately becomes the center of the whole ecosystem, where all of the other type of marketing that you're doing is going to lead back to the website and to provide the information that people need to be able to actually come and visit. But all these different tools, social media, using infographics, videos, virtual tours, all these things, podcasts, search engine optimization to make sure that when people search for things that are in your community, they're going to find them. This is all the tools of the trade, and many of these we'll be talking about today as they happen to be current trends. And I just want to remind everybody that other than telling a good story, that there's a lot of different I guess senses that apply to that, including visual, and that you can tell an awful lot of a story with a picture. They say a picture is worth 1,000 words. Here's a couple examples of ones that I think are wonderful. Tulsa just, not only have they done a great job with attracting business, but they've done a great job with attracting talent over the last couple years. Let's see, you got, okay, working, okay, there we go. I wanted to show this one. This is Wilmington, Delaware. They have a video banner that runs on the top of theirs, and it's just, what it shows and the story it tells is about culture. And it's very, very cool place to live, and they certainly showcase that. I just really appreciate their site. Groton, Connecticut talks about the uniqueness of the flavors, and here's experience the flavors of our growing artisan food industry. Very, very interesting way to show something that's really unique and gives people a sense of the quality of life. This was my favorite COVID banner image over these last couple years. Everybody's all masked up and sitting indoors. We're close to Seattle, but a world away, and that looks like a huge breath of fresh air. This is EDC Mason out of Washington. And then there's another one which I'm going to come back to a little bit later. Big Life, Small City, your home in Dubuque. These are one of the sites. We'll talk a little bit about microsites and workforce attraction, but Greater Dubuque put a site together that just focuses on helping people find their careers in the Dubuque region in Iowa. And this type of story is about something that is when you really choose a specific target industry and you know that you've got something awesome. It's one of the, I think, toughest things to do in economic development is to not say, hey, we're a great fit for everyone. You know, you want to really narrow down who you're going to be a great fit for so that your marketing doesn't just get missed. You want to be strong and focused. And when you make the decisions of who you're going to focus on, look at this is Saginaw Future in Michigan. The Hemlock Semiconductor produces the most pure substance on earth. They are going after semiconductor and related industries, and they're not afraid to put that right on the front of their homepage and tell that story. Let me pass it over to you, Elisa.
Thank you. I love all these images and the different kinds of stories. That's really important, I think, Erin, the idea that there's different kinds of stories and you have to figure out what your location's stories actually are and then to tell that in compelling ways. And those are some beautiful examples with some great pictures. It's, of course, important to also use the data for storytelling. And sometimes we call that the kind of show, don't just tell approach, which is if you're going to be making a claim of some kind, it's really useful to be able to back that up with data. So there's an example from the country of Switzerland uses our intelligence components to set out the case for themselves and establish the context for investment. In this case, they asked if we could share a layer about I guess, information computer technology. They provided that to us, startups, business angels, VCs, incubators, things like that. So this is just a great example, I think, of using that data to be able to show that, not just tell it, and see how those things are dispersed across the territory. Similarly, a lot of our clients use our business intelligence component to show when they're telling the story about target industry sectors. And it's one thing to describe the manufacturing in your community and to have those anchor companies and tell those success stories. That's important as well. But this is customized to load and very quickly and carefully tells how manufacturing is dispersed, in this case, across the territory of Conway, South Carolina. They have that same customized version of the business intelligence component on each one of the pages dedicated to a key industry so that they're able to make that case for them. Another example is how we can add local data. That's something that we often do. Clients have data. Miami-Dade, the Beacon Council, actually has some of the most fantastic local data of all of our clients, although we have many others with good examples. You've got data, no problem. We'll add it in there. In this case, we're showing their data centers. This is just a way that we can tell that story. You have an Esri server, no problem. We can connect to that and add those map layers in there. There's all kinds of really valuable local data that can be added. And that's part of how we learn to tell your story, in addition to the fantastic data that we can bring to all of our clients. Tell us what you've got. We'll help work with you to get that information up there in different ways. What we love to see is when our clients use this data and the visualizations for it to tell stories on social media. Pasadena's been doing a fantastic job lately. So they take from our the information infographic, that's either on Zoom Prospector or the standalone tool, and then they're using it with links. I love seeing those links on social because it's going to bring people back to the website, which is always what we want to do. Engaging, telling short stories either about the businesses. I love their Transportation Tuesday hashtag. Just giving information about what parts of their story and using these clever visuals to engage people on social and then bring them back. A few other examples we have here of clients who are using links from the tool, in this case, Albuquerque. They just renamed themselves, actually. Now it's Albuquerque, I think it's area, and I'm going to say Albuquerque Regional Economic Development. Danielle, I hope I got that right. And in this case, they've got a link back to a featured property. Jobs Ohio is telling information about infrastructure, again with a link back where you'll see that storytelling. City of Grapevine, Texas, talking about a specific industry, aerospace in this case, telling that story, and then having a link back to the industry cluster being displayed on their page. So right away, engaging people, then bringing them back so they can continue to do that analysis and research and proof themselves. And we hear from site selectors all the time who talk about how critical that data is when you're doing the storytelling to engage people, but also to offer that proof of concept so people can continue doing the analysis that they need in site selection so that they understand what that looks like. And in this case, he's referencing specifically understanding the story that you're telling. And I really think that that's an important lesson for anyone to use. So that takes us to supporting businesses, Aaron, and I think that just a couple things that I'd like to say before I hand this back over to you. We found during the pandemic, of course, even for those clients who were dedicated to attracting new investment or foreign direct investment, there was, of course, this renewed focus on supporting your local businesses. They're the lifeblood of your area economy, right? So our new Zoom business tool was something that we launched during the pandemic to help people map their local businesses. You could put them in different categories so people can do the research and support businesses that are within their region, which is where the jobs are, which is where your suppliers can be, to find those kind of synergies at a regional level. And of course, that enriches everybody. An example here from Fayette County, you can see how they've added these lovely images, and it's just been a really powerful way for them to be able to support their community. Again, when you get this slide deck, you're going to be able to click on those links. You can all go and check those things out. Now, in addition to Zoom Business, of course, telling that story by giving people powerful, daily updated business data and industry data that you can search and analyze is so critical. So we use Data Axle, formerly known as Info Group USA, and we have a constant daily updated stream of business data. Businesses open and close all the time. And this is so important because people often think of these data tools as solely property databases or sites and building databases, but they also are incredible sources of actionable intelligence for your businesses, market intelligence. Your small and medium-sized businesses, most of them cannot afford to pay for consultants or outside data. As an economic development organization, you can support them by letting them map suppliers and competitors, download, save, share. They can literally drill down in and map out just specific categories. You can see in the image here, attorneys' offices. You can even click further on that and it will name every single one of them. You can click on the dots and see where they are. And so this is really powerful information that helps both site selectors and businesses making investment decisions better understand the business and industry picture in an area, but they're also so useful for your existing businesses and your community stakeholders so that they can understand what the picture is for the businesses that are already there. And here's an example from Intersect, Illinois. In this case, there's a link on the top that'll take you to just the town of Alton in Illinois. You can click and see all of their businesses displayed, but you can drill down in so many different ways here and then just choose to display those categories that are of interest to you. So that's super useful. Many economic development organizations or chambers, they have tax roles, or permit roles, so they have a vague understanding of the businesses in the area, but actually being able to reliably map them, as this is something that's constantly changing, is so important for stimulating economic growth. Now, we can, of course, integrate FDI data by country, by jobs, by sector, by the amount of investment. As an example from Edmonton Global up in Canada, where you can see that you can drill down by country and map that out and see where those investments are taking place. So our larger organizations, statewide organizations, utilities, large metro areas and regions are really happy to use that. If you're a subscriber of FDI Markets, then we can absolutely build that in, and it helps us understand more about economic growth. Back over to you, Aaron.
Sure. Yeah, I'd say I put this on here. The COVID reminded us that, with all the excitement of bringing in a new business from outside the region and having new jobs get created, that it's your local businesses that matter first. If the local businesses aren't expanding and growing, new businesses aren't going to be expanding or growing either when they show up. So it's really important to keep the focus on saving and creating and expanding the jobs that are in your own community. And we certainly did that work with Ramsey County. This was back when the pandemic had first hit. And in fact, I believe that you end up creating in the long term, you end up creating significantly more jobs by expanding your local economy than you will attracting in new businesses. So it's certainly an important focus. All right, I'm trying to get to the next slide here. See what I can do. Ta-da! Here's one at Elk River, Minnesota. They put a whole business toolbox together with all sorts of information. So this isn't around business attraction, but business support, so that businesses that are in their community could come and get all this information that they might need, including microloans, tax abatement, et cetera, and different things that are available locally. And then we have quite a few sites that use a tool called SizeUp, and SizeUp's really interesting. You can it provides all sorts of this local business intelligent data, so that with an economic development organization, especially like in a medium-sized community where you might have a smaller team, you might have thousands of businesses, but realistically, in a year, you can get to maybe hundreds of them to actually talk to them, and that's probably stretching it. And so there's technology resources you can use to support these other businesses, where they can go in and take data that really was only previously available, kind of like Lisa had mentioned before, with some significant consulting firms, and be able to run data on where it might make sense to set up a small business, based on competitors, based on traffic, based on what could be expected income-wise from the same types of businesses that are in the community. A really powerful tool, and we've added quite a few of these to the golden shovel sites, especially over the last couple of years since the pandemic had hit, to really support local businesses and show that the economic development organization is there for them. And so this is Palestine EDC, and they, if I pull into it, I think it ties into some of the demographic and workforce tools that you guys have, Lisa.
Yeah, so exactly. This basically is just ways to drill down into the data, labor force, demographics, consumer expenditures, as you can see over here, that allows you to, and these are part of the intelligence components. I'm going to show some other examples of those in a bit, but they can be embedded on any one of your website pages. And I think we have an example on the next slide also. So this is a business intelligence component. Again, I'll be showing some other examples of that. And the idea here is that we've taken the data from Zoom Prospector, sliced and diced it, and put it in these interactive tools that can be embedded on any website page. So you don't necessarily have to always rely on people going into the Zoom Prospector tool. You can also host them on other pages if you have something about, as we see here, target industry sectors, for example. Back over to you, Aaron.
Yep, sounds good. And this is just another example of some of these site and building tools built into it. This was Expand Greater Springfield out of Ohio, a fantastic community setting up their resources. And you can see in there, you can go right in from there under site selection. You go down to consumer expenses. That brings you access to all of that data that Lisa was just talking about. It looks like they have a size up too. You can see it down there in the bottom right. So that's
They do.
Excellent example. All right, over to you, dynamic sharing.
Okay, so dynamic sharing is just the difference between a data tool just for the data geeks, and I say that with respect because I consider myself one of them, and those who are also really into marketing. So for most of you, you're here because you're really interested in place marketing. If you're going to have a data tool on your website, it has to be something that anyone can use and that you can use for your marketing itself. And so, originally the slide said everything is better when it's shared, and then I realized we're in the middle of a pandemic, and that's not really quite true. So I'd say that almost everything is better than it's shared, from ice cream to cookies to good news. But certainly for economic development data, if you've got data on your website, you need to make sure that you're going to be able to share it, put it in your social media, your email newsletters, your email campaigns, your marketing collateral for trade shows, all of those good things. You want to be able to put that out there into the world to engage site selectors and businesses making location decisions, and not necessarily expect them to just come to you. And so if you can't actively and dynamically share data about your community, and by that I mean links that bring them back to your website, we're not talking about old school PDFs anymore. That's not, like, that maybe worked in 2005, but these days it has to get people back to your website. And so when you do that, you're turning these from prospects into genuine opportunities. And we know that informed buyers who come back to your site and do that analysis, they spend less time in that sales decision timeline. It shortens things considerably. And that's really important. So we see that this kind of current sites and buildings database, an example here from a site selector, Josh Bays, who's talking about how you need this well-maintained property database with the data alongside it, really is absolutely critical for that decision-making process. And that's true both for site selectors, but also for the businesses who are doing the site selection on their own. So some of the things that we're seeing is absolutely critical, of course, is the sites and buildings, but also the demographics, the really robust, updated business and industry data, labor force, broadband has become so important, made very clear during the pandemic. Local data that you've got, talent, housing, in transportation, energy, education, all of that information, and the ability to compare it, to drill down into it is so important. So one of the things that we've done is with Zoom Prospector is really the idea that you're putting these sites and buildings alongside tens of thousands of data points, in fact, and letting people do that searching on their own so that they can better understand what the opportunities are out there. We always say that there are warehouses and industrial facilities everywhere. Retail locations, that there's no shortage of those things. What we want to do is help people understand the communities also that make sense for them so that they're able to meet the criteria for the community. Then they can go in and look for the warehouse or the industrial facility. They're looking at, as you see on this GIF here, is the different reports that allow people to do the research to the different parts of the tool around a property, and only then does that property really make sense to them, because you can find most kinds of facilities and properties pretty much anywhere. Now that share button, because this is about dynamic sharing, as an example, every single property report, every single report on Zoom Prospector lets you, I call that share button over there, that's our superpower. And you click on that superpower, you can then share it by email, you could share it on social media. Sure, you can download it as a PDF if you really want to, but the power lies in that dynamic link, which you see being highlighted over here. Then you can put a link to that somewhere on your website. You could put it in a PowerPoint deck, you could put it in email marketing, you could put it in a newsletter or in social media. And that's how you go out and engage and bring people back to the website where they can continue to proof themselves. Another aspect is that compare communities benchmarking that lets people understand how a specific community matches up with communities across the US. And you can pick any community within your region and then see what it looks like with as many other communities across the US as you want, and look at it with thousands of different data points. Now you can build a report like this and use that share button on the top. You can see it's right over here, and it gives you that hyperlink. That's your superpower, and that dynamic sharing will bring people back to this report so they can continue to proof themselves. The different kinds of intelligence components that we have, and I alluded to them before, these are the standalone tools. We sliced and diced the incredible data in Zoom Prospector. These get embedded on any of your website pages. You can use your branding colors so it fits in seamlessly. You're going to lower your bounce rates. You're going to engage people right where they are and help them map out the different data points that are interesting to them. I've showed you the business examples as well. Map out their suppliers, map out their competitors, understand how that works in your geography. Look at the demographics as well across your region and map those things out. The compare communities exists also as this standalone widget. All of this is included with any investment in Zoom Prospector. You could invest in these separately on your own if you wanted to. Certainly that's possible. A la carte, you could pick any one or a combination of them. But this is just something that we include with Zoom Prospector because we know how powerful it is. This beautiful infographic, community profile infographic. This is something we always suggest clients include that on an About My Community page on their website. So, about Michigan, and then you can drill down, as you can see, into the geography of that area. So you can learn a little bit more about it once you get in there. So those visuals are super powerful, and they're just another way to share all this great information. Example here, talent pool information. This is from the Encore service territory, and you can see where degrees conferred. You can see the top programs of study, the top universities, and it helps you understand a little bit more about the talent pool that you're drawing from when you are courting businesses. Another example of the community profile infographic here from the state of Idaho. That people can drill down to. Now, the other thing that's really critical when you're sharing is that you make everything available on mobile. We are the only vendor out there that provides all the same features that you'll find on your laptop or desktop is available on mobile. We're not sacrificing mapping. We're not sacrificing any of those other things. Those are all available to you as well. And that's really critical, because if you're not optimized for mobile in this day and age, you are losing leads without knowing it. So frustrating to get onto that little screen on your phone and be trying to hunt and peck for things that actually aren't there because it's not mobile friendly. So that's something that you can trust. And this back over to you, Erin.
Oh, sure. I just wanted to build on what you're talking about. And I know we went back and forth this year about whether or not we still needed to leave this in as a trend. Unfortunately, it definitely has not been fully adopted, but is incredibly important that things are mobile. Right now, looking at, I think we have 165 sites running on our economic gateway system right now, and they're at is almost 50-50 as far as desktop usage and mobile usage,
Right.
and
Yeah.
that's significant. It used to be much less on the mobile side, and so doing things like having responsive design just saves time because you don't have to make multiple sites or versions. You can have one site that adapts and looks visually stunning on any type of format. So there's an example with Midland, Texas. There's a full site. And there it is, how it looks on a cell phone. This gives you an idea of responsive design. And also with responsive design, it's kind of cool. You can make it so that it might, if there's more space, it can show more stuff. And then when it scales down, if there's less space, to make it easier to use, you can remove things, design elements and the like that might make a smaller screen harder to use. And so you can do a lot creatively to make it easier to use. And that gets us into analytics and lead gen.
Yeah, so it's wonderful to build a beautiful website out there, but if you aren't making sure that people are able to find you, it's kind of like throwing a party and not sending out any invitations. We want to make sure that people can find you out there. And this is where you get a chance to go back and check via your analytics. I must say that I am floored by how many of our economic development clients and people that we speak to are not regularly checking their analytics. You want to make sure that people are coming back. You want to understand how they got there so you can build on those successes. And you want to make sure that once they're there, they're staying there and that they're exiting on the right exit pages. So we've built into the back end, in addition to Google Analytics, which if you do not regularly check or ask for reports from your website manager, you should be doing that. We've also built in a layer of economic development analytics to Zoom Prospector. So that lets you go in through your admin, see what keywords people are using, what communities are viewed, what sites or buildings are being viewed, what reports are being viewed or downloaded, what are the most viewed properties, the most viewed communities, for example. But we've also built in this additional layer that we call Lead Gen ID, and that allows you to see what companies are visiting your web tools. And that's really important because numbers are important too. Like certainly you want to have good quality web traffic, and quality doesn't just mean quantity. It means that you are attracting interest and visits from the right companies. And this is where you get to see who's come to your web tools, how they got there, because you can see the referring sites, what are the keywords they use to search. It's always interesting to track the devices, as we see from what Aaron is saying, we're seeing more and more mobile, but also who they are. So this does not track individuals, and it doesn't track anything else people are doing on their computer. But you can tell that, say, GIS Planning has come to your website. You can tell that I got there through LinkedIn, that I've come several times. You get a little bit of information about who I am and where I'm from. And then you can assign this visitor. Let's say you have someone on your team who's just in charge of biotech or aerospace or manufacturing. So every time this company comes back, they will automatically get an email. And then you get the details of their visits. You get to understand a little bit more about what it is that you're doing. You want to be able to add, certainly the outbound marketing, as you see here, is important. Your EDO is attracting prospects, but you also want the inbound. You want your prospects to be coming to you. Aaron, I don't know if you just wanted to add something here.
Yeah, absolutely. So the same tracking tools are ones that we use too to be able to identify the businesses. But once you know what businesses you've got, then it's about how do you nurture those leads. All of the mentioned earlier, the website's at the center of the whole ecosystem. So all of your traffic's going to the website. And you want to be able to, once you've got those people hooked, let's say they read an article about aerospace on LinkedIn and they clicked on that link and came to your aerospace target industry page, you want to make sure that they don't just leave and forget about you. And so the idea of inbound marketing is to then nurture that lead and give them more things about aerospace. So maybe there's a CEO that's doing a webinar from an aerospace company in your area that they'd be interested in hearing their story. or perhaps there's going to be a white paper that was written about why the industry thrives, or an infographic from one of GIS Planning's tools to highlight the aerospace cluster. You can keep sending that back to that particular lead and nurture them until the time is right for them to consider possibly moving themselves and or their companies to the area. And so here's a bunch of different inbound marketing strategies that we use. Everything from the email marketing, SEO is still to this day a huge part of making sure you're found when someone's searching. And there's a lot of sophistication that can go into that, not just looking at maybe the obvious keywords of a specific industry in your region, but think about the other types of things that the people that are going to be making those searches might be looking for, and then writing content that can capture them and catch them. And then, of course, inside the content itself, making sure that the keywords and all of that are going to be found in there.
So I'm going to just go through these relatively quickly, just examples of kind of specific filtered searches that people are using when they're sharing this information. You can see over here on Maryland Department of Housing and Community Development showing opportunity zones. And oh, sorry, actually, this is their Opportunity Maryland. So in this case, they've used Zoom Prospector to show businesses and investments for sale, not properties. I thought that was a very clever way to do that, so that if you are looking for business opportunities in the state, then you can go through there to explore and see what's available to you. So this is kind of an innovative way to use the model that we've got. Similarly, we see over here the state of Connecticut. They've actually since renamed themselves. I should have updated the web page here. It's Advanced CT, Advanced Connecticut, but they're showing just properties in opportunity zones. So this is an opportunity zone of property search. So you could do that within Zoom Prospector, but in this case, it's dedicated just to op zone properties as well. That brings us to number 6, to microsites. So pass this back over to you,
Sure.
Eric.
Yeah, and this one doesn't take a long time. What's important here is that sometimes when you're sharing so many different first impressions with these different audiences, whether it be business attraction or workforce attraction, we're trying to talk to a target industry, that it makes sense to take all that information and separate it out and just make a site that's dedicated to making the best first impression to that audience. And just some examples of that I'll just show quickly, and it's just something to consider as a marketing effort. A Greater Irvine Chamber, they have a whole global business focus for one of their microsites. This Tiger Transfer is out of Wyoming, and it's just for a Tiger Transfer is a large rail service area, and so they just built a whole section just highlighting this particular transload facility. Workforce attraction, of course, building sites that are specialized for just talking to the workforce. You're not mixing this up with business attraction messaging.
You know, so many of our clients also work with Golden Shovel. We know they're in fantastic hands when it comes to website development. For clients who are just looking for a clever, best practices, simple way to house their online data tools, we do offer a variety of different microsite templates that they can put them in. Here's an example over here from Michigan. And these are just, as Aaron said, just add-ons to your additional, your main website most of the time. But they're just ways to house these things. This is Sheffield region in England. And they look different. You add your own colors, your branding, your logo, and it allows people to just make sure that they're always featuring their data tools with the best possible practices.
Yeah, and I'll hit up on number 5, geotargeting, which is another option for not having to share so many audiences. We talk about websites, for example, that are just, with all these audiences, you can get really mixed messages, and it can affect the first impression. Same way that when you have a city site that has an economic development page buried in it, that you're competing with the same people that are trying to pay parking tickets, if you will. But even for just an EDO that's dedicated, you're trying to highlight the people that love their hometown and the success story to attract somebody from California, and then the features about some workforce person that's loving that live there and work there. These can be really confusing. And so what geotargeting does is allows you to, on the fly, change the content that's on your homepage or on any part of your website, so to say, so that it knows where the person's coming from. So in this case, let's say you're talking to the state of Texas, and this is what the page looks like before. But if you know they're coming from, say, California, wouldn't it be nicer if your economic development site said, California business moves to Texas town, top place to do business, and the success story is a person that is thriving, that I loved moving here from California and for all the reasons. And if you know that someone's coming from a different place, you can track that and change the content. Now it takes a little work because you got to prepare the content based on what you're looking for. Like if somebody's coming from international, you might as well just have all business attraction stuff focused and foreign direct investments content focused on it. But if you know that someone's coming from inside your town or a 50-mile radius, wouldn't you prefer to speak to your local businesses and local audiences? We grow business here, homegrown success, 500 local jobs created, things that they're going to want to see. And so everybody gets a better first impression based on their location. So here's a quick example, like the Golden Shovel site. The top left is our current site. The bottom right is what our site looks like if you go there from Texas. Or here's an example of a client, York County, Nebraska, where they change, if you come from outside of the United States, it changes the content from where you might see in, if you're just, say, coming from inside the United States. And then leading into that, this is a whole webinar on its own, if you will, but it's still just one of the most critical things. It's only getting more important, and the battle for talent has just begun, especially during this great resignation. And so workforce attraction has certainly provided some new thoughts and ideas since the pandemic hit and people started leaving larger metros to find a little more space. And it's created quite a few opportunities for smaller and medium-sized groups to be able to attract not just talent, but or say not just businesses and people working in their businesses, but also for remote workers that can work from anywhere, since we can work from home now. So we've seen all sorts of different types of strategies. We've worked with groups all across the country on this. I pulled this up earlier. This one idea is building microsites that really focus in on just attracting careers. And that can get really refined down to specific careers just to speak to certain types of talent. Here's another one with York County, putting success stories that are going to really relate to quality of life and people living in the region, in this case, distilling, and there's somebody talking about why they love living there. This was a group we've worked with that I just really appreciate some of their strategies. This was Greater Yankton Living. They made a workforce attraction site. But here's some of their strategies. They put a bunch of success stories of all these different people onto their site that are thriving in the region. And then you can watch videos about them and learn more about why they love being there. They also put in all the volunteer opportunities onto their site because a lot of times, especially younger generations don't engage the community in the same way that they used to. They want to engage, but they're going to do things like volunteer, and to have those opportunities available shows people a little vision of what it might be like in your community. They do this thing called 31 under 31 every March. They highlight 31 people in their community that's thriving and loves living there, talks about them, tells their story, and that becomes a social media content that those people can share with people, their friends, and are oftentimes out of state and are out of community and people that they want to attract. And this is a little dated, but it's higher than this now. But look at their Facebook profile, has 19,530 followers. They just have a huge following, and what an asset to be able to talk to people about great things going on in the region.
So I've already shown the talent pool data, but just as we're talking about workforce attraction, just so people understand, you can change the radius here. People are obviously crossing town lines and county lines in order to work in different communities. So the talent pool data is adjustable in that way, and it does give you a snapshot of who's coming from different areas. You can add, in addition to that, other data. We talked already about FDI data, but also jobs EQ, MZ data that we provide through occupation data, and any other local data that you might actually have to help get a better sense of the talent of the workforce in the area. It's really powerful and important. Another example here of jobs EQ from the Charlotte Region Business Alliance, and I've already shown the data before from Florida Power and Light and FDI Markets. I love this one. What they've done in Greater Lansing is they also added success stories to their website. So when we talk about workforce attraction, we can promote some of the businesses that have done really well. And again, that relates back to storytelling, so you can understand better how those things are working. We know co-working spaces, this before the pandemic was really big. I'm sure those things will be big again. Things like ghost kitchens for restaurants to do prep for takeout and delivery. There's all sorts of ways we can add different types to the filters so that people can understand better what job opportunities await them. Aaron, this brings us over to video and VR.
Yeah, this is something that we've just focused an awful lot on. I mean, video is such a fantastic way to tell a story because you can incorporate audio, you can incorporate the visuals, all of the right reasons. And there's lots of different types of video, but we know for sure that as far as social media is concerned, as far as people's remembering and retaining it, that this is really important. And even for SEO, if you're searching for a website, if it has video, it ranks higher. And just can't say enough about the power of using video to tell your story. We see it used a variety of different ways. Let me see if I can get in here. Okay, there we go. We've done a lot of this 360-degree immersive video where you shoot in a sphere so that you can look all around you and feel like you're standing there. There's aerial drone shots. We've done quite a bit of work in that space. That's incredibly popular for showing sites. Doing interviews with local leadership and is still very popular. It could be used for all sorts of types of social media sharing. And then one new area that's been I'm really excited about is career education, where leading employers in your community can create videos and 360 videos that can be used with students that are in your community to learn about the opportunities that are there for them and to get a real sense of what it's like to do those jobs. So that when they can look forward to something outside of, let's say, once they graduate, to get trained in on. Big, especially now with talent attraction, trying to get talent from your own community is important. We put these videos on banners. So this is there is a video on this one, so you'll have to check it out, but it's just one of the ones that leaves a really great first impression for Choose Columbus, Georgia. The videos go on the home pages and get placed within those. And with the 360 videos, something that we've been really excited about and leading the way on is this use of virtual reality, because it makes this feeling of actually being there inside the videos. We're doing some various types of tours, which I'll touch on in just a minute, but fam tours, site tours, tourism, feeling like you're visiting a place when you can't physically be there. And that's really important when you're at a trade show and you're speaking with somebody and you might be in another country, you might be in a different, they're certainly not in your town, and be able to show somebody what it's like to be standing there and visiting your community to entice them to come and visit and check it out and hopefully move their businesses or families. And so when we've built some virtual reality apps that allow for having these virtual meetings, you can literally go in, bring people into the tours, show them around, and give live FAM tours, complete with slideshows and 3D models, and be able to do that FAM tour when right now, especially, people can't necessarily travel, and in the future, there's just going to be a lot less travel. And so we're inventing new ways to be able to engage site consultants and business prospects and talent.
It's amazing. I just think that's such a fantastic new way to think about doing business. We can incorporate these beautiful videos into our different client sites. We've got and the ability to put them into live proposals as well. So those can become custom tours. The video can be added as documents to the different versions that we've got there. I think that really fantastic addition to any tour. What
Yep, and
takes
that
us
gets us,
over the virtual tours?
yeah, virtual tours. So this is the different types of tours that we've done. We're going to show you a couple different types today, like familiarization tours of the community, tours of sites, tours of businesses, that are great use at job fairs. And let me see if I can get, taking these tours, you can put them onto your website and embed them right into there, being able to show them off to people that are interested in your community. Especially as people are traveling less, these tours are becoming more important than ever.
Yeah, and part of what we've done, and to piggyback on what Erin's talking about, is we enabled people to engage site selectors and businesses making location decisions with a easy to build virtual tours. So this is what we call Zoom Tour. Actually, let me take a step back here. Is we added the virtual tour capacity to automatically to every single property in the system. So we use Google Earth for that. You click on virtual tour, it takes you so you can see a digital flyover of every single property in the system. You can see how the Detroit Regional Partnership has actually built this into LinkedIn posts over here. And this really is just a fantastic way to promote the property because you can see infrastructure around a property as well as other buildings, highways, those kinds of things. But we also put in the ability to add custom tours, and that's where some of the things that Erin's talking about come in. They really kind of work across the system because now you can use them, Matterport immersive walkthroughs, drone video, so that people can click on custom tour and now they can actually see the property in different kinds of ways. And I've got a link over here so you can check that out. When you look at the slide deck, some just different examples of how people have added those custom tours if they've got them. And we recognize that not everyone does, and that's why the 360 virtual tours are there. Now, Zoom Tour is this ability to build your own interactive virtual tours. You don't need any training, you don't need an agency. If you have an agency, they will do a fantastic job, just like Golden Shovel did with the Montgomery, Ohio tour over here. And you can click at the top to check that out. And that allows you to integrate video, images, Google mapping, hyperlinks, social media. If you've got our data tools, you can put those in there. You don't have to. There's so many fantastic ways to do that. NISA in South Carolina added their Zoom tour onto their website, so you can get a chance to walk through and learn more about it, to see images and video, click through on hyperlinks. And there's so many different ways that clients are using this, and they're putting them in their email, in their newsletters, on their websites, in their social media. Santa Clarita Valley, an example over here of how they're using it to promote business over here. And you can see that we've also got clients using it for tourism to attract film and video production. The town of Abbotsford in BC has built a whole bunch of different tours to promote film and video production in their region. One is called their Abbeywood Walk of Fame, which I think is clever. It's a walk down their main street. You can see the business websites by clicking over here, see more images, see data. Google mapping, you can move through so you get to learn more about it. Another example from Santa Clarita Valley, pitching their film and video tourism over here. Download the visitor guide, the brochures, and get that information. So just using virtual tours as other ways to engage with people, I think is really so powerful. And this takes us to our top trend, Erin, our 3D visualization, our top trend for 2022.
Yep, absolutely. And we talked about these trends, and I know we're at the top of our hour, and so we'll hit this quick. I want to jump over to what you got to share. We've been doing all sorts of types of 3D visualization, trying to show the visions for places. And just to show a quick example, this one was actually placed inside a 360 video. So it feels like you're standing there. This is in Eastern Kentucky. And what appears is an actual photorealistic version of an example vision for what could be built there, in this case, an advanced manufacturing place. And we were able to incorporate all of that to create that feeling of being there. And another type that we've been using for existing facilities is this Matterport technology, where we can walk through a facility every 8 feet and with a specialized camera, create a 3D model of the building that then somebody can actually walk through and feel like they're there. And in virtual reality, in both of these cases, using the VR goggles, they can feel like they're actually walking through the facility, or use it over the website. And it's so accurate, you can even measure the distance of things to see if your equipment will fit in the right spot.
That really is amazing. We've seen a lot of clients include those in their custom tours and their online proposals. I think that that's really powerful. One of the things that we just launched a couple weeks ago is a brand new 3D rendering feature. This is automatically built into Zoom Prospector for every single property report. Anyone can come in, they don't need to log in, they don't need to remember a new password. Use your mouse to just draw a building on a space. You could do that on both satellite view or map view. You can choose from the various decorations and designs that we put in there. You can customize the height, the size, the way the patterns work across there. And this is so important because it really, it helps your prospects picture their investments. They can change the building height and use their own branding colors if they want to. You can then save these renderings. So you're no longer required to use those expensive, time-consuming GIS consultants who will build them one at a time for only the choice properties. Every property gets to have one of those now, and anyone can do them. You can customize, you can save without a login. If you are the owner of the Zoom Prospector, the economic development organization who has this, you can see in your admin all the different 3D renderings that your visitors have created. If someone saves one, only they get to see it, but they can share it if they want. It's just a link. You can add these renderings into proposals. You can take screenshots. You can put them in Zoom tours. You can share it on social media. You can use them in online presentations. This is the wow moment that helps site selectors and businesses imagine themselves in those spaces. And we've really made this so easy to use. In fact, it's super fun. I encourage you to go to any Zoom Prospector and try them out and help people picture their investments in your area. So this takes us to the end of our top 10 trends for 2022. Erin, this was once again exciting. I know that we've had a couple questions come in, and I'm aware that we've passed the hour mark. I just want to let people know that we have recorded this. You will get the recording and the slide deck in your inbox latest tomorrow morning. A couple of quick questions that I'm just going to take a moment to answer before we thank everyone for their time. Kathy asks what data we use for mapping businesses in Zoom Prospector. We use Data Axle. This is human qualified data from a variety of different sources, but qualified by people on the ground, and it is updated every single day. And Catherine wants to know, many of the site selection tools you develop require brokers to self-load data or sites. What other options are there? That's a great question. I'm actually glad you asked it because the vast majority of our clients do not self-load or require brokers to do it. They can, that's always available, but most of our clients are using automatic data feeds. Resimplify is probably the leading one out there. In Canada, we use Spaceless. We can also connect to your local MLS, to RETS feeds from brokerages. Our client services team will work with you to look at your region and determine what are the best sources for automatic data feeds. So you can certainly do them manually if you want to, but most of our clients, in fact, have an automatic property data feed, and there's lots of different ways that we can help you with that. Erin, was there anything else that you wanted to add to help close us out here?
Just that it's been a pleasure once again presenting this. Honestly, being 5 minutes over is the fastest I think we've done it.
I think you're right, actually. This is so fun. I always look forward to this, and I know that we really appreciate all of you taking time out of your busy days. We appreciate the work you are doing for your communities. I wish everyone a wonderful day wherever you are. Stay safe, be well, and we look forward to seeing you online. Take care.
Thank you so much, everybody. Take care.
Bye-bye.